So, yes, the MAGA GOP is engaged in a civil war, I guess. It's it's kind of ridiculous and silly. We already know that this Republican Party cannot govern. Even when they have these majorities, they simply cannot govern. It is to our benefit that the House Republican majority is only by like 2 seats or something. Very slim majority. It'll grow by a couple seats after the special elections in April. But they seem to be lost without us as their enemy. They defeated us in the election. I think they cheated, but they did get the majority of both houses and they got the White House. And they're freaking out over it. Now, you would think that with their whole agenda being whatever Donald Trump wants, remember that's the RNC platform, whatever he wants is we're for it. This should be easy. Just paint by numbers, follow instructions. Only it's not easy. So you've got Elon Musk and they're complicating things to a very large degree. And now he's saying that Republicans or that Americans are too stupid to do the big jobs that we need in tech. So we have to give the special visas for foreign, engineers and tech people and let them come in on these temporary visas to do these big important jobs, the type of job that Elon Musk, respects and needs and thinks are the only jobs that matter. Well, MAGA doesn't like that because remember, they were told immigrants are bad. Get rid of the immigrants, especially the brown ones. In fact, mainly the brown ones, only the brown ones. What if we bring in these new smart immigrants from places like India, Pakistan, and they're brown? Yeah. So now there's a civil war. And you have Steve Bannon out there calling Elon Musk names. Elon Musk has been elected to nothing. Steve Bannon has been elected to nothing. Got sprung from prison, basically. And let's see, this Laura Loomer, really scary person. She's somehow involved in this, and she was in a war with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, I mean, it goes on and on. But Republicans are now at war with each other, and they have not even yet been sworn into the new Congress, and Donald Trump has yet to be inaugurated as sworn in as president. I guess you could say that Elon Musk over-egged his pudding, meaning he went a little bit too far. He got arrogant. He kept stepping over the line. He kept thinking that he could do more, seeing how much he could get away with, pushing that envelope, and the other big egos in the MAGA movement don't like that very much. So they seem to be at odds with each other. Now you also have lower level, poor, red hat wearing, regular rank and file MAGA out there in the country. They tend to be lower income and poorly educated, which is why Trump loves them. And now they're finding out that Trump is not only going, he's going to be, not only is he not going to be lowering food prices, remember he ran on this whole thing. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are why your food prices are so high. It was not true, but he ran on that. And these idiots believed it. They really, they knew that he was going to do some things that were going to hurt a lot of people, but they somehow, in their little MAGA brains, thought that it would only hit Democrats, but not these good MAGA people, these good Christians who supported Trump. They'd be okay. They were going to prosper. Just how did they think Trump was going to manage to do that? How are these policies? How are you going to have policies that only hurt Democrats, but not MAGA? So food prices are going to go up even further, and Trump has said so. So now you've got MAGA out there thinking, can we do canning, gardening? They're hoarding food. They're buying everything, all the canned goods while they still can, while they still think they're cheap or affordable. Because very shortly, they're not going to be. The tariffs are going to affect that, of course, and getting rid of migrant workers that are part of producing our crops. But mainly, it's just because these executives, like at Walmart, want to raise prices because they can. It's called greed. They're using any excuse they can to raise prices out of greed. And Trump is just fine with that. He respects that because that's how he's lived his whole life. So that's what's going to be happening. We don't have a middle class anymore. You are either way up here and you get taken care of by Trump. Even if you're not an oligarch, if you're rich, if you're the 1%, you're going to do just fine. And you're going to be doing better. If you're not, if you're middle class, there's no more middle class. We are all poor. That's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. I think when you stop and think about it, you know that is true. We're not as well off as our parents were. Remember the day when you could buy a home, send your kids to college, have a couple of cars, and do it all in one income? Maybe afford a vacation a year? Can't do that anymore. Even households with both parents, married, intact families where both parents work, and they can be educated, and they both work, they still can't make it. You can thank Trump for that. It's going to be getting worse. It was because of the pandemic, and it was because of greed. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were able to take bites out of that with things like the $2,000 a year annual cap on prescription drugs under Medicare. That's kicking in just a few days. Trump will take credit for it. But that's going to have an immense impact on millions of families. The $35 cap on insulin, per month insulin, is huge for so many families. The relieving student debt. Now, MAGA thinks that they're paying for somebody else to go to college and I didn't get to go to college. Well, no, this debt has had the principal and then some paid, sometimes several times over. And we're talking about just interest. Nobody's getting free college from this. They still, they paid the initial loan and lots of interest. And so you just get rid of the interest so they aren't burdened by this for the rest of their lives as they try and save money to send their own kids to college or to afford food or a home. Housing prices are through the roof. The percentage of a family income that goes toward buying a home now versus 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it's just out of reach for many people who have what we think are well-paying jobs. But you can't even buy a small cottage. And then on the high end, you've got these big, huge McMansions that only the very wealthy can afford. So again, there is this gap now between the haves and the have-nots. And the middle class and the upper-ish middle class, let's say the middle class is even divided into 3 tiers, out the window. If you can't afford home, a vacation, cars, food, a few extras for your family or for yourself if you don't have children, you're not middle class. You're not upper middle class. You're struggling. If you have to rent for so many years because you can't afford to buy a home, or if you never get to the point where you're wealthy enough to buy a home, but you thought you were middle class and you still can't buy a home, you're not middle class. So that's what's happening here. The middle class is gone, going away. It didn't have to be this way, but since Trump is going to be president and Republicans now control Congress, or will, this is what we're up against. This is what we have to do. We literally have Americans hoarding food, buying what they can now, canned goods. And I admit I've done it. Those things, those items that can last a long time. if you have a place to store them, things like beans and canned vegetables and soups and pastas and rice and anything like that. The stuff that you're going to need. Do you need to stock up on laundry soap? It's pretty expensive. They have it behind locks, locked chests behind the locked glass at the stores now because people are stealing it because it's so expensive. And increasingly, Americans cannot afford to buy these basics. So soap, laundry soap, dishwashing liquid, toothpaste, toilet paper, coffee, anything that can last a long time in a can. And if you're lucky enough to have a little patch of garden, little patch of grass where you can grow your vegetables, do it. Do it. I think a lot of people are going to find a green thumb that never even considered it before. It is healthier that way, but there seems to be an attitude that we are heading into some kind of a disaster, like a war or a pandemic or some massive weather change. This is how people are now approaching the start of the Trump presidency and the Republicans having both houses of Congress. And when they see this level of infighting and the reasons for the fights, it sends a chill up your spine. That MAGA is now having a civil war, and one of their reasons for this is that Elon Musk and therefore Trump and Putin are saying that we are going to bring in foreigners to do the big jobs. Brown foreigners. Oof. As we are, yeah, we're going to deport everybody. Yeah. We're deporting all the, the low-level people that, pick the crops so that food might be affordable in this country. That's out the window. So they got to get rid of those people to make MAGA happy. MAGA's really unhappy about the others that they want to bring in. This is literally why the GOP is imploding and in a civil war. That base racism. It's not some big policy difference, about something that's going to, what we need to do for this country. It's going to help this country, help everybody, lift us all up. But we have a policy difference on how to reach that point. That's not what this is about. So I find it interesting that the Civil War in the GOP is about these types of issues before anybody has even been sworn in. I've got my canned goods and I got my popcorn and I'll be watching. I guess you will be too.